Hello everyone, thank you and welcome to my TED Talk. So for my TED Talk, it is how farmers are dealing with current droughts. So for my research question, it is what are the most effective agriculture techniques farmers in southwest Colorado are using to handle current droughts? So for what I learned throughout this time, I've actually never done farming in my lifespan at all, nor has my family. So this was actually kind of interesting for me because I'm new to it, so it made me learn a lot of new things that I've never even heard of or seen or thought about until basically throughout this research of doing this senior project. So this was definitely a huge step. And after learning this, then I had to go throughout the histories of droughts, what are the current situations of droughts, if we've had them throughout the years, if we haven't, or how farmers have used several different ways to make it so they don't have any issues at all with drought, or help with making it so they can still work with their farm. So for a little bit of some history, we have this thing called the Dust Bowl. And so during the 1930s, we had that was also the year of the Great Depression, and the farmers had a nasty issue, which was basically this dust storm right here. And what happened was during this year we had a nasty drought that pretty much was so dry that just a simple wind would blow it up into the sky and create this dust storm, and it was a horrible year for most of the people out in any area that was flat and had no trees. The farmers tried to do their best to try to grow as many crops as they could, but because of this nasty drought, they could not grow anything at all. So that's when the wind won its battle and created this massive dust storm. And it was bad for also civilized people like us. Imagine us. School's canceled due to that. It was not a good thing to have. And I know there'd be people out there who would say, yay, no school, but with this was not a fun year at all. And it did not stop for 10 years. It basically stopped until the 1940s. And the drought went away, nothing bad happened, and we were all good. So then, after all this chaos, farmers had to come up with strategies to prevent this from happening. And because this was also during the Great Depression, most of the farmers came into a big community, said, all right, however much money we have so far, let's try to see if we can get this to never happen again, because they did not like this at all. And so they gathered up as much money as they could, managed to make a lot of salvation for strategies, and trying to make it so the next generation and so on and so forth don't have to see this ever again and keep it as history. So for the strategies, there's so many. You can go on and on and on, and there's so many ways to do it. But for me, I picked the three that most farmers out here in Colorado and in general are using, so then I can learn more about it, see what they think is great, what's not great, what could be maybe improved on, other things that would help it. So then these came up, and I thought this would be a good idea to learn a little bit more about it. So for drip irrigation, what this is a simple pipe that runs along a garden, either above ground, underground, in an orchard or somewhere that it's not going to have any issues with being run over or caught in some kind of blade that will ruin the pipe. And so what this does is water is being run through a pipe, and it's being pressurized to where once it's being sent out, it's kept in that pressure while it's being dripped out onto these pipes, and and it kind of looks something more like that, where there's these little pods of waters where they planted the plants, and it's nowhere else like here where it's all dry. It's great because that means it's only getting the plants, so they have water, and nothing else has no water, because that way the water doesn't, for some reason, like leave the roots, and now the roots have nothing to get because the water's maybe deep below where the roots can reach, and the plants die because they have nothing to feast off of. So with this, it's great, but the only issue is because there's salt in that water, in general, when it's being pressurized, it's basically making it more looking like salt. So the pipes get clogged up, the plants could have salt in it and die because of the minerals, because some plants are sensitive to the salt's minerals. There are other plants out there that do like salts, just not a whole lot of it, but most plants kind of are sensitive to salt and don't grow at all, so they just die until you have to find a new area to get rid of the salt. Next is irrigation scheduling. So with irrigation scheduling, it's more of something that helps with a scheduling of day-to-day basis, or throughout whatever the farmer wants to do with irrigation ditches running through their land. And so what this more will help with is to make sure that there's an even amount of water running through the ditch, and yet each farmer who's near it has that same amount of water and doesn't use either too much, and the farmer down the ditch does nothing because the other guy's been using too much, or no one's using it at all and the ditch is running full, and yet no one's using it because they have so much water they don't need it. So what this system actually is it's called a center pivot, and what's great about this is that means this farmer, whoever has it, has a higher quality of using lots, or not a lot, but a majority of water than what farmers who may not have that kind of quality can do. But what's great about this thing is it helps with basically doing the same thing as it is with a drip irrigation, but at a larger scale. It pressurizes it, sends it through these little pipes that are hanging down, and sprays mists of water, but it's computerized. So all the farmer has to literally do is type in a code or something that says, I want you to start here, and then it'll start there, and then throughout 24 hours, it'll make sure that the field has been completely watered at an even amount without having too much or too little, which is perfect for not using too much water, and it's also healthy for the field because it gives them something, it gives it water, which is pretty great. Less drought. Now, the other one is rotational grazing. Now, for some people who have livestock, this thing is actually kind of great, because what it is, what most farmers think it is you send out your animals out into a field, let them eat the grass, graze it, while they're grazing, they lay their manure and all these things, which actually is great for the field because it gives it nutrients. And then after that, they bring them back to the pen wherever they came from, and then mess with the field. Now, a guy that I interviewed with named Greg Hopskin, he thinks that actually that's not what you should be doing. What you should do is he wants you to basically if you have a huge field, do something like this animation shows where it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and how it's doing that circle. He's kind of thinking that same role, but you're basically making the animals work in areas where you want them to be. So you're gonna have to move fences around, all these other things, but he thinks that's actually better for the soil on the field. And the other thing about it is you want the soil to be loose, but not too loose, like what most farmers who just send the animals out and let them roam free do. And the reason why you don't want it to be too loose, and he explained me to this, imagine like a tiny little raindrop. Even though it looks small to us, for it to hit the ground, it actually makes a massive crater. And if they had the animals just roaming free and they loosen it up too much, it basically makes it to where it can erode and make ruts and make your field not last long, or it won't do its thing because there's too many ruts in the field. And then you can't do anything about it because you can hurt either your equipment or hurt something else that you don't want to have damage much of. So he thinks if you keep it at an even amount of areas, it'll make that soil where it's like thin enough to where the water seeps down into the ground, but yet it's hard enough so that way the water doesn't erode anything or make it to where it starts to become a massive creek in your field. And so I hope his idea actually works, because he's wanting this to be spread across both first Colorado, then after that, hopefully around the entire U.S., which I think that's a great thing to think about. And if this is proven correctly, then he can pretty much show everyone out there that this works, and this can help with making sure that you won't have to deal with droughts, because either you're trying to fight back the field or try to grow it back because your animals either ruined it, or you made it so loose that even the water that seeps down went farther below than what the roots want to grab. So that's kind of an issue with some farmers who have low amounts of water rights or can't get water at all, but they somehow manage to get animals here with them. And then there's the issue of, with that being said, you have to work harder. And some farmers don't want that with their animals. They think that they should just leave them be, let them roam free, and once they're done, and they can bring them back. He thinks that, yes, you should let them be free, but you need to make them work a little bit more. And you need to make them know that, I want you to go to this section, now I want you to go over to the other section, then the other one, then the other. And soon, after a while, they will learn, okay, he wants me to go here, I want to go here, I want to go there. They'll make me move eventually, but I need to stay here for now. And this, I think, is a great idea for him to do. And I really do hope it works. So, for my conclusion, I think this guy should be the best way for a strategy on farming. Now, there are other ways that farmers think that this is a bad idea and I shouldn't do it, but I think this will be a lot better. And I think this will be the best thing ever for everyone if they do have animals, to pretty much do what Greg wants everyone else to do if they move them in sections instead of letting them roam free. And so hopefully this works, and then after that, people start thinking about what to do now with new strategies. Thank you.